Hi, wait, what?
Wait, yeah, it request sent to host, and then you have to press OK.
Okay, I think
So I
we're
think
good.
it's going. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Yiping.
And like this week we've just been going over like the different cultures and whatnot. And so we'll just be interviewing each other on different cultures that we've researched. So Yiping, what culture have you researched this week?
So this week I studied Chinese culture because I'm Chinese, so I just like was really wanted to like study that culture. So
Okay, that makes sense. Is there anything specific with like the dietary practices and any restrictions that would be necessary?
okay, so like I was looking at like the research and I saw that like people who believe in Buddhism, they don't eat meat. So then their restrictions like at the hospital would be like not to eat meat. So like as a nurse, that would like be our like document thing that we like write down. So
Okay. How is communication presented like with verbal, nonverbal, with touching and eye contact?
I think it like kind of depends on the person because I know some people like that give like eye contact, but I know in some cultures that it's I know like in like Chinese culture, like it's like looked down upon to like stare into people's eyes, so then they kind of avoid eye contact. Like they'll like give eye contact, but then they'll like kind of like look away. And yeah. So
Okay. How do they display respect?
I think when they like meet people, they like shake hands and they also like they really respect like their elderly people, like really, really well. So
Okay. What are there any like spiritual or religious practices that would be focused during nursing care?
I like just saw that um I researched Buddhism, so like they don't eat meat, but also like I feel like Chinese people like they a lot of them like eat rice like every day. So like I think like in the hospital it's like would like to accommodate their needs, like maybe have some rice or something. So
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any like healing traditions like related to pregnancy, illnesses, death and burial or anything like that?
Yeah, so I like saw online that um that they said not to eat cold or hot food like when you're pregnant, so then you won't have like miscarriages or like allergic reactions like while you're pregnant. And then like birth practices, they like don't like they don't want you to like scream or anything. Like they yeah. And I was like I thought that was like interesting. And then a lot of them like squat like down when they like give birth. So I thought that was super interesting. And then like illnesses, I feel like a lot of Chinese people they use like herbal remedies. Like they really like their herbal like green tea and like all those stuff. And then I like saw this religion that was called like Taoists, and they believe in like life after death. So they like for like they didn't want to like since they believe that of life after death, they didn't want to donate their organs like after they died because they wanted to like keep them for like their afterlife.
Okay. How are like personal relations like marriage and family and with their children and like that? Like how are those relations presented and impacted with nursing care?
Okay. I like saw years ago that it had to do with there was like thousands and thousands of years ago they used to have like arranged marriages and that it was like kind of like economic status, but then like now modern times it's like more about like love. That's why people like get married and stuff. And then a lot of like Chinese people they like care for their parents like when they're older. Like they really like a lot of them like the grandparents will like move in with like the families sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Are there any like health literacy and health disparity issues in China?
I just thought it was interesting because last year when I took my medical ethics class, we like were talking about this movie called The Farewell, and it was about this like Chinese family that the the grandma had like cancer, but then like the family didn't want the grandma to know that she had cancer, so that they like hid the secret from her. because they felt like if they told her it would make her more anxious, and then they just like didn't want her to know that she had like really bad like cancer and that she was like going to die. They didn't want her to know. And then the doctor said that she was gonna die like pretty soon, but she ended up like after they told her that it had been like 7 years and she was like still alive. I don't know if it's based on like a true story, but like I think she's like still alive like to this day. So
Interesting.
yeah. So what about you, Elizabeth? What culture did you study this week?
I focused on Swiss German culture. That's where my grandma's from, and I just wanted to get to know that culture a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I'll ask you some of the questions they had. So the first question asked about dietary practices, food, and restrictions. So what is that in like the German culture?
So, the German culture is overall pretty similar to American culture. The food that they eat is kind of really carb heavy. But like, and they do like their alcohol. But overall, there aren't really any restrictions. There's like no like overall religion that a lot of people in Germany, especially Switzerland, follow. If it were, they'd primarily be more Catholic, but there's not very many dietary restrictions with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that like people in German love their alcohol.
They
So
do.
yeah. So the second question that our discussion forum said was it was about like communication, verbal and nonverbal, eye contact, any of that that the German culture does.
So the German culture can sound very strict with their verbal communication, and oftentimes it's not as strict as it sounds. Um, which a lot of the verbal, like nonverbal, communication plays into that. But just like the language itself is just very strict and harsh. And so they just really have to pay attention to body language to get what the person is trying to say.
So the third question is, so how do they display their respect? Any specific ways they address people?
They specifically just like respect their elders and primarily just like handshakes when they get to know people.
Yeah. The fourth question is on spirituality or any religious practices that like the German people do.
There aren't any like really super specific ones that relate to nursing care. Just it would be like personal faith.
What?
It would be more personal faith related
Okay.
instead of like the German culture as a whole.
Yeah. So the fifth question was on like health and healing traditions such as beliefs related to pregnancy and birth practices, illnesses, death, organ donations, any of those.
With illness, beliefs, and death and burial and organ donation, it's all very similar to American, where it's all personal preference. With birth practices, there aren't as many like medicated, like labor and delivery, because um, like they're a strong people and they want to be viewed as strong. So there are fewer um, like epidurals given during birth.
The sixth question was about marriage, family, kingship, and child rearing practices that impact nursing care.
There aren't very many that impact nursing care, but just marriage is more out of love, um, like good relations with an immediate family, and like how you raise your children is a little more strict, and it just helps create like that strong persona that the German people view.
Yeah. I can see because like I did like Chinese culture and I feel like I feel like some Chinese people are like pretty strict sometimes
Mhm.
too. So, the seventh question was about health literacy, health disparity, issues, and understanding how to administer culturally appropriate care.
Yeah, so Germany and Switzerland are really pretty developed countries, educated. So lots of like there aren't very many like health literacy issues. In like your instance where you mentioned like the family not telling the
Yeah.
grandma about cancer. I think that would be like more of a personal basis type thing, but overall, I would say it's very similar to the American culture.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wait, how do we